say the Penal Code Act, the Police Act, which can merely be improved to reflect today's realities, rather than have a whole cocktail of provisions in one bill that is very restrictive. But from the onset, I must admit that, of course, the right and freedom of assembly is not an absolute right. But the Constitution has already provided guidance in as far as what an absolute right is and what a right that's not absolute is about. And any limitation on any right must conform to what's demonstrably justifiable in a free and democratic society. So even as we limit the exercise of this particular right, we must have this in mind. But also, we should recognize that Uganda is party to several international human rights treaties, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the International Convention on Civil Political Rights, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. All these already creates those standards, the ideal standards for which any limitation on public order, public demonstrations should take. So any provision meant to regulate them must conform to these particular standards. But just to give you an example, when you look at the current clauses 65 to 70, are already provided for in the Penal Code.
What do they say?
Also look at clauses. So the powers of the IGP in terms of regulation of public gatherings is already catered for in section 65 to 70 of the Penal Code Act, not the bill. Look at also clause 13 of the proposed bill is already also catered for in section 40 with regard to the use of public address systems. So it means basically that the bill is just trying to sort of pull out various provisions from the already existing laws and sort of putting all of them in just one restrictive bill. So to me the approach would be different. I would prefer to revisit those existing laws and sort of amend them to reflect today's realities, again bearing in mind the standards that are already underscored.
So who would be affected mostly if it was passed? If it were passed?
Potentially everyone, because a public gathering for which the bill
it could be a wedding, a funeral.
Right, for which the bill seeks to regulate requires just 3 persons in a public place, which public place is very vague. It's very ambiguous. It can include potentially any place, including this place. So, and including a lot. So if there are 3 citizens, say, talking about
sheltering from the rain under
a tree, and they happen to talk about, say, what's going on now with regard to investigations in the oil sector, it's potentially a public gathering, and therefore
they could be arrested.
They could be arrested.
You've broken the law. 3 men, women.
Right. So it's very problematic in many ways. But again, the use of firearms, the very overwhelming powers of the IGP. That are unchecked. Also the powers of the minister to gazette certain presses, because the minister has powers under the bill to gazette certain presses as restricted areas for which no one can access those presses, and there's no check on these particular powers.
So you could wake up and say that City Square is not open to meeting, even though people go there to have lunch.
Right.
Edmond, there is another angle to this bill. This bill has introduced responsibilities for certain sections of people in this country, and it has introduced responsibilities for organizers of public gatherings, and also what would I call them, owners or proprietors of places where public gatherings can be organized, like hotels, meeting places. And among the responsibilities it is introducing for organizers, it is saying that you as an organizer, you must ensure that all participants are unarmed and are peaceful.
Yes. What's wrong with that?
As an organizer, you probably cannot determine that.
Well, if it's a hotel, if it's
your hotel, you can have the facility. But as an organizer, I may not be able to know who is armed and who is not armed and who is peaceful and not peaceful. That's on one hand. But then it goes ahead to say that the statements made to the media and public do not conflict any law.
Yes.
Now, as you've organized an event, now from a practitioner's perspective, after the event, the media and members of the media come and speak to various people who have impressed them during the gathering.
Yes.
You are mandated now to control what they tell them. What they say.
So you've had a meeting, it's ended officially, the speeches are done, the microphones are switched off.
You're going away. You don't even know who's talking
by
to
10
who.
media houses.
Exactly.
Whatever they say, you're held responsible.
You're held responsible. Then it goes ahead to say that the meeting must end before 6 p.m. It's now introducing a time limit, which is more of a curfew.
It's a curfew.
Yeah, it's a curfew.
So the bill gives us a curfew.
Yes, that you must stop at 6 p.m. You know, meetings beyond that.
There was a time when we go to bed before sunset.
Now we are coming back to that. Then it also says that you, as an organizer, you take the responsibility to compensate any party or person that may suffer loss or damage from any fall out of the public meeting. To me, this is a little extended.
Yes.
And needs to be controlled. We are aware that as an organizer, you should be putting your security guards in place to guard against some of these things. But where it goes uncontrollably, you can't handle it. Then for the events managers, anything that would happen at your hotel.
Yes.
That goes back to the definition under section, to the interpretation under clause 6. You'll be held responsible for it. We are at Africana and we are talking about oil, let me say.
Yes.
And because you're talking about oil, leave alone oil. The performance of RDCs, the powers they have, we are saying no, we should petition because these RDCs, yes, they are right to do this, but I think they're infringing on the enjoyment of our rights. And they're not even supporting the implementation of policy in our districts. You as the proprietor of Africana,
yes,
you come under this law.
You could be arrested.
You're held responsible.
Even though you didn't know
what they were talking about. It's none of your business, probably. You're more interested in the business and the profit making. But you come under this law.
Right.
And those are some of the powers that the bill creates and responsibilities.
Do you think the police force we have is enough to enforce this, or do we think we would have to double it if we pass this law? Because these clauses, to enforce them, you need a good number of police
officers. Yes, because they need to. You need those who will know what we are discussing, what we are talking about. You need those who will know who has come with a firearm or who doesn't have. You need those who will know who is peaceful and who is not peaceful. You need a bigger team of the police, in addition to them facilitating the discussion and protecting the people in that discussion against any danger that may come out of it.
They don't go around with tape recorders. Every 3 people record your tape.
Not only tape recorders,
whether it's under the tree.
Yeah, every after 2 people, you must have a police officer. Every after 3 people, you must have a police officer.
So employment will go up. That's not a bad thing in the end.
Yeah, fighting unemployment.
Roselyn.
Yeah, the other disturbing thing about the bill is that it places a responsibility on organizers and participants to ensure that demonstrators are unarmed, which we believe is the duty of the Uganda police force, because it's the one responsible for maintenance of law and order. And when they've been given notice, it's up to them to use their means. The organizers don't have the professional qualifications of police.
Well, they have private guards.
Under the UHRC guidelines, we said that it is their duty to maintain law and order and to ensure that people are not armed. Of course, as the organizers are mobilizing, they can inform. They should inform the participants that it is a peaceful demonstration. You're meant to be unarmed, and during the demonstration, police can intervene appropriately if they cite people who are armed or are engaged in criminal behavior or breach of peace or about to commit violence, and they can come in at that point. But to put this responsibility on the organizer is too much. I imagine Sophie is in civil society and she has mobilized the group. There is no way that Sophie would know this person is armed or unarmed. People keep these arms. You'd have to be a professional engaged in security matters to probably know whether the person is unarmed or armed, unless they are clearly exposing the arm.
All right, maybe before hear from the listeners, Dan, what kind of groups would be directly affected, most affected?
Right, so of course the political groups would be very directly affected.
So you think they are targeting the political groups or what?
Absolutely, because when you look at, first of all, the history of public management in Uganda, look at the Public Order and Security Act of 1967. Look at the way it was used. It's not any different from how this bill will be potentially used. Something has already been said about the definition of political parties, but I'll go take another perspective. The definition is already problematic, but you realize that the bill aims at regulating public meetings. So in a way, it comes out then to say that the business of political parties. So if political members of a political opposition party meet and discuss entirely party business, the bill in a way says that they will not be affected. But you realize what's the cardinal law of political parties? They basically
to organize and take power.
Yeah, not
well, I don't know one political party that is there to sell tomatoes.
Yeah, but of course also maybe beyond taking power, also to criticize government decisions. It's their legitimate role to do that. So again, a bill attempting to say, well, you're free to meet but not to discuss politics, then takes away the basic agenda.
All right. This is Spectrum. You can... Yes?
Sorry, I wanted to add that also civil society organizations are one of the groups that will be affected.
Even NGOs.
Even NGOs, because one of the strategies they use is public meetings and assemblies and demonstrations and even processions, so they could also be affected.
So in short, all dissenting voices.
And especially those that have defined their role to be advocacy organizations, and advocacy bringing in the development and the critique of government policy.
So you might be
demanding accountability.
You might be having a coffee break at Africana after a speech in the morning and they come, you've broken the law.
Yes.
I'd say it's human rights organizations, because they are the ones that look out at the principles, policy actions and failures of the government. So they are always criticizing. The human rights organizations are always looking out for what could be done better, so they would be affected by this.
So this law is casting a long shadow of many types of people.
Right.
Long shadow of people. Well, this is Spectrum. You can call in now. Our numbers 0414-348-111, 0312-260-390, 0312-261-390. Spectrum, hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. Your name? Hello.
Thank you for seeing the guest.
Yes.
I am calling from Jinda.
Yes.
I want to salute them for their articulation, but I want to differ with them that they don't support the bill. Some of them, they have said less than 30%, others 0%. But the issue is that even the opposition, there are some criminals who are using opposition to take over their interest. And if you maybe you are not in the country, you excuse me, when our category was refused to go to Gerere. You know the mayhem what happened, the disorder in the state, most in the Uganda region. So to me, though the police sometimes use excessive power, but we welcome the move, because we have to regulate our public, not because necessarily that whatever the government is bringing, it wants to oppress the opposition. No, tomorrow President will not be in power. So we should welcome the bill. You should bring your views. Then they debate on it. But if you say no, that this is not in a bad faith, I think you are not here. What happened? Thank you.
Spectrum. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Your name?
Hello.
Yes, you're live on air. Your name?
Hello. This is Wamboga.
Yes, Peter Wamboga.
Good evening, Edmond.
Good evening, Peter. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. I greet you guest. Edmond, my approach to this matter is, let's look at it in a wider perspective. What are the factors bringing up this kind of law? Is government forcing Ugandans rebellious? And if it is forcing Ugandans are going to be rebellious, what is the reason? I think the most important thing is to deal with the factors that may lead to Ugandans being riotous and being uneasy and being uncomfortable and being rebellious. That solves the matter more sustainably and deals with the issues, in a kind of dealing with taking the bull by the horn. But legislating in this kind of manner and creating, obnoxious laws, it even makes the matter even worse. I can see people from the Human Rights Commission. These are experts on human rights issues and legal minds. They know that we already have legal framework that can control and can give deterrence and can give punishment and deal with issues of committing crime. So why legislating this kind of manner? I think the issue is to find out why are Ugandans uncomfortable, rebellious and righteous, and deal with those factors. That's the more sustainable and more democratic and more acceptable manner to dealing with this kind of situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Spectrum alert.
Hello?
Yes, your name?
Good evening. My name is Paul. One of the most hilarious and ridiculous jokes that used to be there from the 70s was when you find 2 or 3 people standing, you ask them, you guys want to overthrow the government. That was just a symptomatic of a hilarious and crazy joke of that time. We were really shocked that it's coming back now.
Spectrum. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir, your name?
Good evening.
Good evening to you.
My name is Roselyn. I greet the people in the studio. I just want them to highlight on the issue because some were aware in that bill. They are saying, they are mentioning so many times, they say this does not include the trade union. And at a certain point, they are again restricting areas where people are not supposed to attend. And yet those areas, they are workers. I want the workers in the studio to actually educate me on that. Thank you.
Spectrum, hello?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, your name?
My name is Kobmanzi. I'm calling from Bunga.
Yes.
My question is really, I disagree with the presenters. I think that the bill should be shelved. There's no reason why they should enact a bill when we already have provisions in other legislation. I think this bill should be shelved because it's detriment to our fundamental human rights as citizens of this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Spectrum, hello? Hello? Yes, your name? Okay, we lost you there. Spectrum, hello? Okay, let's get the responses. Roselyn.
I believe it was AM said the regulation of public demonstrations is necessary, and I agree that in a sense it is necessary because it's I mean, if you don't regulate it, it could go out of hand. But the law that regulates the public demonstrations, as I said before, must not be prohibitive or restrictive. It must be facilitative. It must facilitate this kind of demonstration. It should not come out to prohibit or kind of restrict or infringe on that, or stifle that kind of demonstration, which in some respects the bill does. And Wamboga said, what are the factors bringing up this law? What are the factors that cause people to demonstrate? Is government anticipating more demonstrations? I'd say that in any democratic society, demonstrations are part of the way of expression. It's part of the way that people express their opinion. It's part of the way that people express their dissent. It's part of the way that people criticize policies. It's part of the way that citizens will pressurize or bring their governments to account on certain things. So we should be expecting demonstrations. The more people are aware of their rights, the more people are literate and are aware of things that are going on in their society, the more they, as we evolve as a democracy, there will be more demonstrations. So we can expect that there will be demonstrations. Because even in democracies of 200 years and over, demonstrations are still going on.
But these are the days when they might want to overthrow the government. You've seen what has happened in other Africa.
We saw what happened in Egypt. We saw
Tunisia, Libya. We don't want those things to happen here, do we?
The thing is, if if you, I mean, it's not that every demonstration will lead to
a change of government.
To a change of government. People are just asking their government to be responsive. The government has to respect that. They're just asking for a response.
All right.
I would like to respond to Oweri, who asked a question about trade unions. And the bit about trade unions comes in the skill clause 6 of this bill, which defines to us what a public meeting is. In its exemption clause, it actually says that notwithstanding any other provision of this bill, a public meeting does not include a meeting convened and held exclusively for a lawful purpose of any public body, and public bodies are only government bodies, so these meetings are eliminated.
So workers cannot organize anymore?
Workers, it goes ahead to say that a meeting of members of a trade union is not considered. It goes ahead to say a meeting
trade union members can organize.
I'm coming.
Yes.
A meeting for a social, religious, cultural, charitable, educational, commercial, industrial purpose. A meeting of organs of a political party or organization convened in accordance with a constitutional party. But all these meetings are allowed. However, it goes back to the first bit of clause 6(1)(a). If this meeting, whether religious, trade union, where you discuss principles, policy, actions, failure of any government, political party, political organization, it goes under this law. So you can come together under the trade union, but you do not talk about principles, policy, failure of any government or of government policy or political party.
So if it was passed, this kind of meeting would be illegal?
It would be, because if you're coming together as a trade union, but you're talking about how government is failing to meet the needs of trade unions and probably the policy about the trade unions, then there will be a problem. If you're coming as religious, now we are in a church as a religious body, and in that church we talk about government policy, then that gathering alone comes under the ambit of this bill. So it goes back to the first part of so you fail to understand what is it guarding against and what is it allowing. It doesn't allow anything.
Would you like to answer that question for us, Dan? What is it guarding against?
It's basically,
try to get behind the minds of these people.
It's basically stifling dissent. It's not guarding against anything, in my opinion, because it gives and takes. When we look at the situation of trade unions, when they delve into politics or principles or policies of government, then they don't have that luxury to meet.
So what's going to happen?
I don't know. In a sense, this you would say that trade unions are excluded, but the way that they
begin to talk about politics,
the way that the section is drafted, it begins by defining public meeting, and then at which principles or policies. Then after that you say, notwithstanding, this meeting does not include the following. But you see, to the reader, the first part of the
is what sticks.
Is what sticks, and that's why colleagues are saying that it affects everything, because that's the beginning started there. You can't legislate against people discussing principles, policies, or failures of government,
which they belong to in a democratic society.
Dan, I know that the tempers are going hot around the table. Let's sum it up.
Yeah, so if I may sum it up, I would say that the bill does not fulfill its own objectives as set out in the memorandum. It's largely prohibitive and regulative. It accords overwhelming powers to the IGP and minister with minimal oversight. It seeks to reenact Section 32 of the Police Act, which was declared unconstitutional by the Constitutional Court, which is contrary again to the spirit of Article 72 of the Constitution. It greatly erodes fundamental rights and freedom of conscience, expression, assembly, and association initiated in Article 29. And in my view, the provisions of the bill are superfluous, draconian, and a recent manifestation of an attempt to stifle political dissent.
We have to end. Thank you very much, dear guests. Mr. Dan Ngabirano, Senior Partner at Development Law Associates, specializing in human law. Thank you for coming to Spectrum. Ms. Sophie Kyagulanyi, Policy Analyst for Governance at Actionaid Uganda. That's an international NGO. Thank you for coming to Spectrum. Ms. Roselyn Karugonjo-Segawa, Director of Monitoring and Inspections at the Uganda Human Rights Commission. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond. Spectrum will return tomorrow. Up next, though, is the news in English.
Just like an uncut diamond is brought to life by unmatched skill and dedication.